Your neurochemistry will change and engage the parts of your brain that have been stalled or not working to full capacity before now. How your interactions with other people will move them from being obstacles to what you're wanting to achieve to being helpful partners, and actually change their ability to perform. How the creative mind that you need to solve problems will finally wake up, and how you will find yourself with capacities you never realized you had. How your own emotional regulation will change, propelling you toward outcomes you haven't seen before. Carly's simple 4-step problem-solving model alone will move you forward in unbelievable ways. But enough about the wonky nerd stuff behind the curtain. As you listen to this book, what matters is that you will get to experience firsthand the helpful, proven wisdom and deep care that I have seen in working alongside Carly in leadership development. I will close this brief introduction with perhaps the greatest endorsement I could give. I have 2 daughters, and I am not what you would call a controlling father. I believe in granting them great freedom and autonomy. But in this case, I'm putting my foot down. They will read this book. Dr. Henry Cloud, Los Angeles, California. Moment of Revelation. A word on your one wild and precious life. I was a miserable first-year law school student, suffering yet another massive migraine, standing in the shower in the upstairs bathroom of my parents' house on an otherwise uneventful Sunday morning, when the revelation hit me. I could just quit. Quit? Surely I had that wrong. I couldn't quit. My parents were well acquainted with struggle in life, and they were determined that their circumstances would not define them. My mother, the only child of an auto assembly line worker, had lost her own mother at age 10. She grew up with the proverbial evil stepmother. She was a bright student, a valedictorian, but her father refused to allow her to attend college. So she ran away from home at 18 and somehow made her way to Texas to join the Women's Army Corps. She eventually became the secretary to the commanding officer at the military base, which is how she met my father. Mom was a richly talented artist who mostly put her art aside while she poured herself into her 3 children, determined they would have the education, the experiences, and the opportunities she had not. My father grew up with a noticeable physical deformity in a tiny Texas town. When he was 13, his father and brother died within 9 months of each other, and his mother never fully recovered from the shock and grief. After World War II, he went to the wrong law school, University of Texas, before anyone had ever heard of it. Definitely not Harvard or Yale. He succeeded in law by dint of sheer hard work and intellectual prowess. He eventually became dean of Duke University Law School, a deputy U.S. Attorney General, and a federal judge on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. He taught his children that they would succeed if they just kept going when the going got tough. My parents were not quitters. They were not sympathetic to the phrase, "I don't like it." Hard work and perseverance were their credo, and what they wanted more than anything was for me to fulfill my potential. They both thought that following my father's footsteps into the legal profession was the right plan for me. I knew how much they had invested in me. I knew how many of their hopes and dreams were reflected in me. I knew they had overcome so much more than I could understand. Surely I couldn't just quit. Still, I was ready to quit. Until that point in my life, the only thing I truly excelled at was people-pleasing, particularly parent-pleasing. I worked hard to please my parents, much to the resentment of my brother and sister at times. I was not going to be the one to disappoint Mom and Dad. However, by the second day of class, I knew I hated law school. When my dad came to visit, I told him how much I hated it. I told him about the constant headaches and the complete lack of joy or interest I felt each time I walked into the classroom. "Give it a year, Carly," he said. "See how you feel then."